Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Spicy Plays, the YouTube show where content creators in the Magic the Gathering world eat spicy peppers and tell you about their favorite decks. I'm Sam, and I'm the host and one of the creators of the Howling Salt Mine podcast that I host with my friend Mike and Tony. And it's a fun time. You might have heard of me. It's a podcast where basically we read salty stories that we get from the community. Sometimes we get them from Reddit. Sometimes we get them from people emailing them in. And it's just a great time. We read those salty tales. We laugh about the salt. We relate to the salt as best we can. And really, it's kind of a fun mix between a comedy and advice podcast, but with a Magic the Gathering twist. And today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite decks, Togo and Keskit. It's a Rakdos artifact aristocrats deck, and it's got a couple of interesting commanders here. So let me read these and get things started. So Togo Goblin Weaponsmith is a 3-mana, costs 2 and a red. It's a 2/2 goblin, and it says whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, create a colorless equipment artifact token named Rock. And Rock says,
"Shut up, bitch!"
Equipped creature has 1 tap, sacrifice Rock. This creature deals 2 damage to any target, and it has an equip cost of 1. Now the partner is Keskit, the Flesh Sculptor. Keskit's a 1/3. It also costs 3 mana, 2 and a black. And you tap it and it says sacrifice 3 other artifacts and or creatures. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 2 of them into your hand, and put the other one in your graveyard. So you basically, the deck wants to make rocks, throw them at your opponents, or feed them to Keskit and kind of eat them for value. So it's sort of this, we're making tokens, we're making these cheap artifact tokens. We're going to be sacking them for value, sacking them to remove opponents' creatures, and kind of control the board a bit, and maybe have a pretty fun aristocrats win con here. So the thing that I have to do first is eat the hot pepper. Oh man, here we go. Can you believe I asked for this? I reached out to Mark and I wanted to be on the show. I actually hounded him about this, and now I have to eat it. So, all right, this is where it starts. Doesn't taste good. Doesn't taste bad though. Oh man. Oh my God. It's about as bad as I thought it would be. Whew. I'm going to try to not touch my face. Here come the hiccups. Oh my God. There's going to be a lot of that. All right, so let's get into it. So it's an artifact aristocrats deck, but Togo has that landfall trigger. So let's talk about landfall a little bit. Landfall in a Rakdos deck is kind of weird. So we're going to talk about the land base first. I don't really run a ton of landfall in this, or should I say cards dedicated to landfall. But what we do run is every fetch land under the sun that we can possibly run in Rakdos. So that gives us 8 or 9 targets that we can use to get 2 land drops per turn. Oh my God, which is 2 rocks per turn, which is pretty much where we want to be. Ideally, you're dropping out Togo, getting 2 rocks, getting that value train going. To support that, we also run Crucible of Worlds. An awesome card, 3 mana, lets you play lands out of your graveyard. Once you get 1 fetch in the yard, you're just guaranteed to get 2 rocks per turn after that. The other landfall piece that we run is a weird one. Burnished Heart, classic commander staple, much maligned at these days. People kind of hate on it, but it's actually really good in this deck. 3 mana artifact, stack itself, get 2 basic lands out, that's 2 rocks, and you sacked an artifact here, which is great because we want to be sacking artifacts. Other key lands we got a bunch of duels, kind of your classic shit, a bunch of your basics. We got a terrain generator in here. That's
say the line, Bart.
Spicy.
Yay!
Haha, spicy. Taps for a colorless, pay 2, and tap it to put a basic land from your hand onto the battlefield. Gives you a little bit of that extra if you need it. Another basic land we got. Whew. Wipe my mouth a bit here. Is Treasure Vault. Treasure Vault fucking slaps. It's an artifact itself, which is sick. We want artifacts because we want to sack them. You pay X twice, so XX, tap it, sack it, and get X treasure tokens. Treasure tokens, you say? Yeah, so treasure tokens are huge in this deck. While we're making rocks, wow, I asked to do this. So we're making rocks, we also want to make treasures, because treasures can sack themselves. This deck doesn't really run artifact sack outlets. We're strictly focused on artifact tokens that sack themselves. So rocks can sack to ping things down. Treasures can sack to give you mana. We got some food tokens, some clue tokens, but not many. So let's just talk about, let's jump to treasures for this deck. Got tons and tons of treasure synergy in here. We're running some sorceries and instants that can produce treasures. We got Deadly Dispute, Seize the Spoils, Big Score. Basically, that's card draw, and you're getting a treasure. Generally discarding something with 2 of these or sacking an artifact, which we've got artifacts to sack for days. You know we got Ragavan in there. You got to have the monkey. So good. You know we got Dockside Extortionist. People love it. People hate it. Hey, it makes a shit ton of treasures. We're going to run it. It's got Impulsive Pilferer. This is a great one. This came out in Commander Legends. It's a super cheap little dinky goblin. And when it dies, you get a treasure token. But it also has Encore. So you cast it for its Encore cost, and you get 3 tokens that can attack, and then they die at the end of the turn. They don't have haste. But you don't really attack with them. You feed them to Kesket, because Kesket can eat 3 artifacts or 3 creatures. So you eat the 3 creatures, get some card draw value, and you get those treasures out, and then you can just do it again on your next turn. It's awesome. Other things we got here, you know we got the Goldspan Dragon. That's a great one. Revel in Riches, never leave home without it. Not really a win con with this deck. Sometimes it is. People don't let you untap with it. And then Zorn, get those double treasures. Then, of course, you got Academy Manufacturer. Academy Manufacturer is crazy. Excuse me. You get the treasures, you get the food, you get the clues. It's awesome. The one artifact sack out we do run is Cork Clan Ironworks. Say that 10 times fast. Cork Clan Ironworks. Ashnod's Altar, but for artifacts. It's fantastic. Just getting that extra value. We also have payoffs. So let's talk about our payoffs a little bit. So we're making tons of artifacts, and we want to stack them. So generally, you're stacking like a few artifacts each turn, either from Kesket or you're throwing rocks, and we want to get the value off that. So we got Reckless Fireweaver. Artifacts are coming in. You're burning your opponents down for 1 per artifact coming in. So with Togo, you get the 2 rocks from your fetches. You're getting 2 triggers on that, which is awesome. Disciple of the Vault, which is whenever an artifact is put into your yard, you can have target opponent lose 1 life. So that adds up a whole bunch. This is a new one that I love. It's one of the backgrounds. Agent of the Iron Throne. Commander creatures you can control have whenever an artifact or creature you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. I'll say that again. Commander creatures you control. So this is a partner deck. So you have this out, your 2 partners, and now you're getting, everyone's losing 2 life per artifact you sack. So this is a card that I think is super slept on. Very spicy. I'm going to keep making spicy puns. Mayhem Devil, just slaps. It's amazing. You're sacking rocks. Your opponents are sacking shit. You're pinging whatever the hell you want. It's awesome. Marionette Master. This is like a game ender on its own. I should read the full thing. It's a 1/3, costs 4 and 2 black. Fabricate 3. So when it comes in, you either put 3+1/+1 counters on it, or you get 3 1/1 colorless servo tokens. And whenever an artifact you control is put into the graveyard from your battlefield, target opponent loses life equal to Marionette Master's power. So with the +1/+1 counters, you can make it a 4, a 4/7, or whatever it is. And as you're sacking things, your opponents are taking 4 damage with each sack, which is great. And then the last, not really a payoff, but Gear Report Aether Grid. Tap 2 untapped artifacts you control, deals 1 damage to target creature or player. It's not the greatest one we have, but it does put in some work. Let's talk about our oh my gosh, my head, man. Oh, let's talk about some of our big payoffs in this deck. So I already mentioned Treasure Vault. You make a shit ton of mana, dump it into Treasure Vault, and you just get more treasures out of it. So often with this deck, you make a lot of treasures, or you have your dragon that doubles your Zorn, so you're getting twice as many treasures, or Goldspan Dragon, you're getting twice as much mana. Crack some treasures, dump it into Treasure Vault, get more treasures back out, and every time you sack a treasure with those payoffs, you're burning down the board and dealing damage to your opponents. So typically you're getting like 2 to 3 payoffs out, a shit ton of artifacts, and you sack them all away to just kill the board in a single turn. Big cards, big cards in this deck. Inspiring Statuary. This might be one of the best mana rocks in this deck. And yeah, I do consider it a mana rock. I'm going to read the whole thing here. Inspiring Statuary costs 3. Non-artifact spells you have, non-artifact spells you cast have Improvise. So your artifacts can help cast those by tapping an artifact. Each artifact you tap is 1 mana off the cost, or towards the cost. So basically all those rocks you're making, rocks don't need to tap to be thrown. The creature taps to throw the rock. So all of your rocks become little mana rocks. I don't know if that's a pun. I guess whatever it is, it's intended. So this is like crazy for ramping out those huge spells. Hellkire Tyrant, it's a win con on its own. When you have 20 more artifacts, you win the game in your upkeep. You can also use it to steal artifacts from your opponents. It's kind of Timmy, but it's fun. Bolas' Citadel, never leave home without it. Most people are using it to just cast off the top of their library. The Sacrifice ability is also super effective. You can tap it, sack 10 non-land permanents. Each opponent loses 10 life. Like, you get enough rocks and stuff where that's very viable. Oh, Brass's Bounty, 7 mana for each land you control. Create a treasure token, which is awesome. So late game, you just bust this out, tap a bunch of your rocks, and then make a bunch of treasures. Make a bunch of treasures, and then your land are still mostly untapped because you used your Inspiring Statuary to cast it, and now you feed it into a big spell like Tormented Hailfire. Everyone knows it. It's a great card. You're making your opponents discard, they're sacking stuff, they're losing life. You pump a ton of mana in it. You're probably putting yourself in a winning position. This is my new favorite one. I've been winning games with this lately, and I love it, man. Indomitable Creativity. This is a sorcery from Kaladesh. It costs X and 3 red. Destroy X target artifacts and or creatures. Each permanent destroyed this way, its controller reveals cards from the top of his or her library until an artifact or creature card is revealed, and exiles that card. Those players put the exile cards onto the battlefield. Then you shuffle their library. So this card, you target like all your rocks. You're using Inspiring Statuary to cast it out. Target all your artifacts that you don't mind getting rid of. And it's just like a full board change out. Generally, when you cast this, a combo is going to assemble itself. And because everything enters simultaneously, like your, all of those things that trigger off ETBs are going to hit right then and there. And you're just going to get a ton of damage to throw out. Last one is Fathom Fleet Swordjack. This is another card from Commander Legends back in the day. Back in the day, I think it was only a few years ago. Whenever Fathom Fleet Swordjack attacks, it deals damage to target, or damage to the player or planeswalker it's attacking equal to the number of artifacts you control. So if you have, 10 whatever artifacts, it's going to deal that much. And it also has Encore, so once it's in your yard, you can bring it out, and there's multiple token copies attacking each opponent, so the damage output is just insane. Let's just talk a little bit about a couple other value cards in here. Mirage Mirror, amazing. You can just kind of copy anything on the battlefield, generally using it to copy one of those output cards. Quicksmith Genius, whenever an artifact enters, you can discard a card, and if you do, you draw cards. You just dig through your deck. Treasure Nabber, you're taking people's stuff, you're sacking it to Casket. Goblin Sharpshooter, never leave home without it. In a deck where we're shooting and pinging things, you want to be able to have something else that can shoot and ping, and it adds up. That with a few rocks and Mayhem Devil is like crazy. Couple tutors I just want to mention too. Goblin Engineer pretty much gets us all of those value pieces, those 3 mana value pieces that we have. And then Witchclaw Talisman, such a good card. Usually it gets passed around from player to player, but what you can do in this deck is activate it and then sack it so no one else gets it, and you still get the tutor. And then you just recur it on your next turn. We've got tons of the classic recursion in this deck. Different things like Mirror Retriever, Duretti, Goblin Welder, Trash for Treasure. We're looking at all that stuff. Basically, this is the kind of deck that you want if you want to have like some damage control on the board, if you want to be pinging down your opponent's creatures. Man, this deck is a menace against opposing commanders that have 2 toughness. My friend Nick in my pod never gets to cast Giada, so it's a super spicy deck. We've got the deck list in the show notes if you want to check it out. And again, I am Sam, one of the hosts of the Howling Salt Mine podcast. We are reading salty stories from our listeners, you out there, or we're mining them from Reddit, the saltiest place of them all. Usually it's just stories of Magic games gone wrong, people kicking deck boxes, throwing Blightsteel Colossuses in each other's faces, screaming, whining, pub stomping, all those kind of stories that bring us so much salt and discomfort, but man, they're really funny to just kind of sit around and joke about. If you have a salty story and you want to get it on the podcast, hit us up. Send it to us on our Gmail, which is howlingsaltmine@gmail.com. Got all of our links and stuff in the description. Check out our link tree. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. Twitter is mostly me just shit posting, and Instagram, we post salty cards up and talk about them and stuff. Oh man, Pepper came back for one last bite. New episodes every Thursday, and we've got awesome guests on. We're talking about salt every single week, and find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere podcasts are found. You can just hit us up and find us, and we've got a shit ton of episodes out right now, so check it out. That was so brutal in the beginning, dude.